Okay, so chronically offline is the future. So what does it mean to be chronically offline? I don't necessarily know, like 100%. I just have an assumption. So what I think that chronically offline means is that you're basically often or always, or at least very commonly, not online. So in other words, you don't really spend a lot of time online. You don't really spend a lot of time on the internet. You're very often spending much of your time offline. You are chronically offline. So why does this, like this topic, so this word, or this phrase, chronically offline, I've heard it a few times over the course of the last year or so, probably a few times, and it's kind of interesting because it kind of goes against much of what the modern trend and norm in society is. Because nowadays, like especially more of the younger people are probably spending more and more time online, more and more of their days online, doing stuff on the internet, whatever it is. And the idea of being chronically offline is probably quite countercultural in our modern society. And so why is that the future? So one thing that's kind of interesting, and again with this whole idea of AI and, artificially generated video and stuff like that, like AI video generation, stuff like that, all this stuff and all the content, all the slop, all the AI slop. One of the examples I find that seems quite prevalent is the amount of AI slop that seems to be on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook very much, but I hear from my mom about how, like, different videos or whatever, and like there was this one about like someone on a kayak saving like a small animal from a rock, like that was like stranded on a rock in the middle of a river or whatever, and this person came over to this rock where this animal was stranded and like saved the animal, and I guess she thought that was so like, such a touching thing to see. And then she saw another video where it was like the same kind of video but a different animal on the rock, and so then I think that she thought that it was like, oh, was I like, lied to by AI or however she said it, but essentially like, all the AI slop out there, and it's like you don't necessarily know what's real or not anymore, and it's probably becoming harder and harder to tell whether something is real or AI generated. And so the more that people become potentially annoyed with the amount of crap that's fake online, it's like, what is the alternative? Because like, what do you do when you can't tell what is real and what is fake online anymore, and you don't know how much of it is real or how much of it is fake? Well, one of the more surefire ways to avoid all of the fake AI slop and crap and etc. is to get offline. You get off of the internet and you go out and you live real life. Real shocker, eh? But anyway, so you just start living real life out there in the world every day, and hopefully having real experiences, doing real things, hopefully meaningful things, living life every day. And it's not that people can't have valuable things in an online digital format, but when you're talking about like, what does it mean to live life well? Live a meaningful life, live a full life. Like, what does that mean? And you don't necessarily have to be chronically offline, but probably, especially nowadays, the more offline you are, probably the better for your overall health and well-being and just like sanity, maybe. Because it's interesting, because nowadays it's becoming, at least recently, maybe it's becoming a bit more prevalent to me, about how it's like, what if you just like took a week off of being online? Like what if you just didn't go online and do anything online for like a week other than like answer email or text messages or whatever? But like, what if you stayed off YouTube? What if you stayed off Facebook, TikTok, whatever, and just didn't do it for a week? Now, first of all, it might be very difficult for a lot of people, probably myself included, because you kind of build up these addictions to consuming content and stuff online, which it's probably never been easier to consume content online than it is now. So it might be more of a fight to get off of it, more so now than ever before. But what's the cost? Like, we might not even know to what extent just always consuming stuff, how that affects our brain, how that affects our lives. Like, and it's kind of been maybe this gradual thing over time where we just get more and more sucked into spending more and more time online or doing stuff with a screen. And there's probably studies on a whole bunch of how that affects us, but do we actually have like comprehensive stuff showing like the effects of, like, would you even be able to test for this on a larger scale? Like, what are the effects on people that spend, like, you know, a few hours a week or less online versus people that spend, you know, 8 hours a day online? Like, of the control groups of 100 or 1,000 people, which groups of people are more or less happy on average? And like, because what does it do to us to always be stimulating the brain all the time? Like, when was the last time you were bored as a person? Like, we've kind of eliminated boredom in modern society with our phones and everything else that we got to distract us and to spend time doing stuff. Like, how often do you have to sit alone with your thoughts and think about things deeply to actually be bored? Like, when was the last time you were silent for more than 30 minutes? You know, just sitting there, not even talking, you know? I saw this video on Twitter a while ago, and it was a clip from something where this guy was saying, go into the silence. Like, he was writing something on a chalkboard or something, and he was talking about how, I don't know if this is 100% true or not, but he was talking about how if you have any type of problem, whatever the problem is, if you just sit silently for, what was it, like 30 minutes, eventually the answer will come to you, whatever it is or whatever. And he's like, most people have never sat silently by themselves for a half an hour or more in their entire lives. I don't know if that's true either. It also depends on which generation you talk to. But maybe he's correct on some level about some of that. Maybe the time amounts are different in terms of what's accurate or not. But regardless, just the idea of sitting still, or like just, you know, not doing anything, not saying anything, not listening to anything for 30 minutes plus. And I think I've tried this at work while driving. Just trying to be silent, like not even talking, not making like any noise like this, right? And not listening to anything, and just kind of like seeing what happens or whatever. And if I remember correctly, you might start to get like a lot of ideas that start coming to your mind, like whether it's like ideas for like topics for videos or whatever creative stuff, that maybe if you were really distracted, maybe those ideas wouldn't come to mind. So there might be something to that. But regardless, just on the topic of when was the last time you were bored, that might be worth thinking about. And like, what does it do to us to build a dependence on always having to have some sort of something that we're listening to or stimulated by? Like, does that create like a really unhealthy dependency that once you have to break away from that, it might be like really difficult, and you might go through like, you know, withdrawals for not having that kind of steady drip feed of whatever? Anyway, yeah. So, in a world that might become increasingly fake over time, more and more than it already is to whatever degree, one of the solutions might just be to simply check out. Not check out as in like stop living life, but actually maybe deciding more intentionally to live real life, to live outside in the real world, doing real things with real people that you know are real because you're interacting with them face to face. And what are simple examples? Go and get pizza with some friends. Go to a movie or whatever. Go to a show. Go for a walk in the park. You know, have a picnic. You know, like it's not complicated. Just live. You know, live real life. And how much better are the experiences and the memories from when you do real things with real people out there in the real world every so often or on a daily basis? Like, what's the quality of life increase potential from going out there and having memories with people doing social things? You know, social in the same room. Practical example, like how many people back in the day had like some Halo split screen nights with the homeboys, you know, where you're just like, all right, let's get together, let's do like, 4-player split screen playing Halo Reach, or maybe you played Halo 3 or whatever you played. Maybe it was a different game, but regardless, it's like, yeah, these are video games, these are technology related stuff. But being in the same room as other people playing those games might have made for some like great times, great memories, like people like freaking out and stuff like that, but like in a good way, hopefully, right? And so it's like, it doesn't even have to be like, a zero dopamine type event, like you're just sitting at a table. It doesn't have to be like that. It's just like, but just doing stuff with people that you care about, friends, family, stuff like that. Just try to live a more social and connected life. It doesn't have to be complicated. It ain't rocket science, but anyway. So yeah, and this might become something that more and more people do, as more and more stuff on the internet becomes fake, and if the whole dead internet theory becomes more true over time, where more things is just bots messaging each other or posting stuff that's, maybe it's fake, maybe it's real, who knows. The more prevalent that may become, the more people might just be like, you know what, I'm just kind of done with this. I'm just going to log off. I'm going to go out. I'm going to live real life. So maybe it's a good thing. In a way, things get more slop on the internet. Maybe it's a good thing in a way. It's also like probably not a good thing in other ways. But if it makes more people spend less time online and go out and live more meaningful real life, maybe that's a good thing. So anyway, I'll leave that there. Thank you for watching, and repent and believe on the Lord Jesus Christ.